No thanks.
Oh, well, welcome everybody. For those of you who haven't, who are not the wellness coordinators for your workplace, I just want to introduce to you Susan Comfort of both Comfort Consulting and Nonprofit Wellness. And she's been leading us through our training on the research behind and the roots of stress and the research behind wellness and just giving us lots of good information. And as you all know, part of this uh, part of what we're doing here includes a whole team. I'm going to go into that more of that later because I'm actually going to table my welcome and some of the talk that I normally would do because Susan has a limited amount of time right now. She's kind of pinch hitting for us. And so I'm going to let her start. We're going to start in the middle. And that's probably a good model for what you have to do sometimes. So Susan, I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Fantastic. Yeah, I only have until 2:30 in this hour, but I have some fun, short practices that I thought let's cram them in and have an interactive first half hour. And then Amy can take back over and sort of foment more discussion and debrief, as well as some more resources, I think, to share with you. So, some of you know me. Hi, my name is really Susan Comfort. Something that other folks that have met me might not know is that I was like researching my name. And this is a little creepy because I talk about team care all the time and like community, team health, and all that. And comfort comes from con, which means with or together, and then fort comes from forte, which means strong. So my name means like together we're strong, right? And so I'm talking about team care, and I actually have been apparently named to have this message. So what we're going to do just in the next few minutes together are some practices that hopefully will challenge your brain and also force you to be present. So if you're multitasking, I don't know, keep trying if you want, but I encourage you to unitask. So, first, just take a deep breath. You may turn your camera on if you'd like. You can keep it off. There are a few things I will ask you to turn your camera on for because it's fun to do together. But right now, dealer's choice or receiver's choice. So, another deep breath. Always good to start something new with, like, full set of oxygen molecules at your disposal. I'll tell you a little bit more about myself in a second, but first, let's just name or number, rather, the breaths that you're going to take next. See if we can get up to 10. I'm just going to give you some space. And you, in your head or out loud if you'd like, we can't hear you, are just going to name or number the breath. In one, out one. In two, out two. You're just going to count. That's your job, is just to count as the breaths happen. And you're going to do it yourself. I'll give you about 45 seconds, which isn't quite enough time. But anyway, you're just going to number the breaths. And if you mess up or forget or distract or whatever, just start over or keep going. Either way, the point is to just be aware for about 45 seconds. Okay, numbering the breaths. Ready, go. All right, time's up. So that was about 45 seconds. Some of you might be brave enough to say how you felt during that. And there should be a lot of different answers, probably in a group this big. Anybody brave enough to take themselves off mic or chat in the chat box how they felt during that 45 seconds? Aware. Thanks for sharing. We talked about that this morning. Great. Thanks for sharing, those of you who did. And that, I kind of threw you into that. You don't know me. Some of you may or may not be breath breathers, mindful breathers, or meditators or counters. This is basically like forcing your brain, which jumps all over the place. It's monkey mind. It forces the brain to have a job. Brain, your job is to count, which then keeps you focused on where you are in that breath, which is what you're supposed to be paying attention to anyway. So it's a trick of mindful breathing. You can always go back to it. And just like we did at the start of this meeting, you can always start a new task, a new meeting, a new hour, a new minute with just a breath, a reset. Pop quiz in the chat box. Please enter your guess of how many times you think we breathe in one day. How many times over one 24-hour period? No need to whip out a calculator. This is just a guess. No points even for getting close. So just number off the top of your head of breaths in a day. How many? Yeah, it's a great guess, right? We're not like, we don't count them. And frankly, I never have. I've read in articles that 20,000 is sort of a magic number. I've seen 25,000. Maybe some of us breathe deeply all the time and we're more like 17,000. But anyway, so roughly 20,000 times. If anyone wants to count, you'd be more mindful than the rest of us. So how many of them are breaths that you pay attention to, right? That you purposely take and like enjoy? We could talk about the etymology of the word breath and inspire, but we'll save that for another day. Three of those are mindful for Amy. I know it's a challenge. So, like we already took about like 10. So yay, we're doing great today. What I would like to encourage you in the next like 22 minutes to do is to take more mindful breaks. And that could be more mindful breaks. And I'm trying to retrain my language. Take more mindful boosts of time throughout the day. Time when you can recharge yourself and your brain in like a purposeful way. And so instead of now calling my talk the Take 5 talk for brain breaks for productivity and joy, I'm saying Take 5, partially related to the Dave Brubeck song, brain boosts for productivity and joy. And so I'm going to take you through the first part of that, like brain boost curriculum in the next few minutes, because it's fun and it's interactive and there are probably a few things you haven't done before and it'll challenge you maybe to think about brain boosts in a new way. But also notice that like to do these things that I'm going to ask you to do, you have to be present. You have to be mindful. And mindful is just the what? Anybody remember the definition? Did I put it up? Oh, I didn't put it up on the screen on this session. It's just the non-judgmental awareness of the present moment. That's it. It's not like meditation where you have to go to a different state of your, consciousness, or, it doesn't necessarily involve a mantra or anything complicated. It's just being presently aware of my voice talking to you over this Zoom, or how you're sitting in your chair, or how you're walking your dog, or filling out your spreadsheet. It can totally be like, collaborative with all the other things you do in your day, being mindful. Anyway, lots of research-based benefits on that. So to introduce myself and share a few of these challenges so that you have better brain boosts, let me start, where should we start here? Because some of you haven't met me. So if you can see my screen, hopefully, I say adults need recess too. Why do I say that? So I'm Susan Comfort again. I worked for Playworks for 4 years out of like 30 years of nonprofits and other work in this sector, world-changing sector. Playworks focuses on recess for kids at elementary schools. And that's me learning how to double Dutch again at age 44 a few years ago. And at this time, I learned a lot about the brain science of little kids and why they need recess and why their brains need that break. And I met the chaplain from the Pentagon. I'm here in the Washington, D.C. area, and this was a fundraiser for Playworks. And he said, well, you need to come be a speaker at our wellness series. I said, great. He said, it's for the civilians in the Pentagon who are super stressed out. And I said, great. And he said, but it needs to be about why adults need recess. And I was like, well, I don't know about that. I just know about why kids need recess. And he was like, well, can you learn about the adult part? Because that's what we need as to serve my country, sure. So I developed this talk about taking brain breaks and how, like, even if you're super important like this guy, you take breaks and you keep yourself fit and you eat healthy and you do what you need to do to be at the top of your game. And this is actually the spiritual fitness medal that I got from the Pentagon chaplain for developing this, like, brain boosts talk. And the longer version, which actually some of you experienced, our Take 5 piece, is around mindfully listening to music like Take 5, the best-selling jazz single of all time, which has a weird 5/4 beat, just to be immersed and be present with the mind sort of nourishing, soul quenching power of music, right? Spiritual and mental health practice in and of itself. And then, I talk a lot, about the need to move and how, like, to really wake up your brain, you could do some squats or, do some of Taisha's plank moves from her Pilates classes or do some yoga poses or whatever it is to just walk, 20 minutes and wake up your brain. There's lots that you can do. But the other things that you can do, and then to be idle, of course, is also a great way to just give your brain a break, which in and of itself boosts your productivity. And of course, we do lots of different things to take breaks now, right? We check our phones while we're on the toilet. We go outside and smoke, or I should say vape now. My favorite, we drink coffee, we drink tea. And in the longer talk, which I won't go into today, I tell the story of Frances Perkins and how she saw the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire and how that kind of launched the modern union movement. And really, it was these women who died for our rights, really, to take breaks. And yet we don't, because, like, we're busy and we have important work to do, right? So I talk about how to develop your brain break and Dan Pink's, not theories, but research-based things about how some breaks are better for your brain than others. I'm not going to go into all of that today, but it's all true. You can read Dan Pink if you're interested. But here's where we get to the interactive stuff. So we're going to challenge your brain today in the next few minutes. Eye on the time, okay? So we're going to do a few new things, maybe that you haven't done before, or we're going to do them with a new side or in a new way. So what do I mean by that? So we're going to do some things that cross the midline. And the midline is both this line down the center of our body, as well as this line down the middle of our brain. So they talk about right brain, right hemisphere, left hemisphere, and there's, like, different modes of thought, etc. And to be sort of in the right brain is said to be more sort of creative or problem solving, but really it's all about the connections between the two hemispheres. The more stuff you can do to build the connections across what's called the corpus callosum, the more opportunities you have for creative thinking and for problem solving. So we're going to do a few new things. The first is Thointer. So here's where, if you can take yourself, actually, I'll stop sharing this and we can just be on the Zoom screen together. So if you can cut on your cameras for a second, it'll be more fun if we are watching each other laugh about this. You're going to make a thumb with one hand and a pointing finger with the other hand, and then you're just going to switch, and you point out your thumb with the first hand and the pointer finger with the other hand. And so you're just challenging your brain to switch. And I've practiced this, so it's pretty easy for me to do fast because I already have this neural pathway. But if you've never practiced it before, it might be challenging, right? It might be like, wait, I have all my fingers are sticking out, or like, and if that's really easy for you, just assign different new fingers, right? Do your, like, pinky and your ring finger and then see how easy that is. That's hard for me because I haven't practiced that one, right? So this doesn't matter. Nobody's smarter on this call, right? It's just like, did your neural pathway already get developed for this thing or not? And you're crossing the midline, right, of your body, crossing the demand across your brain and forcing it to think in new ways. So a similar kind of like handsy activity that we'll just do since our hands are up is make like the victory sign here. And let's face it, it's a gun. So gun and victory, and then switch. You could also shoot the bunny. So you're just asking your fingers to do different things. And I've practiced this a lot, you know. Hey, yeah, see? And some of you are feeling pretty cocky because you're like, I got this. But it doesn't really mean anything. You're not smarter. You just have done a lot of gun hands, I guess, and you're good at that, right? You got that neural pathway down. So here's another one. So we're not going to be able to see this on camera, but if you can just ground your feet wherever you are sitting, you'll want to use the floor as like resistance. So it doesn't matter if you have bare feet or socks or shoes or anything, but you're just going to like kind of spread your toes a little bit, like lift them up and spread them out if you can. Kind of pretend like you're getting them spread out. And then just rest them along the floor. And then just pick up the big toe, like your thumb toe. Just pick that one up and leave the other ones down. And then put it down. So give me a thumbs up if that felt like doable, like the picking up of your big toe. Most people, yeah, I saw all thumbs up. Okay, cool. So we're all big toe movers. Great. Toes down. Now pick up your pinky toe, like your littlest toe. Just like lift that one up and leave the other 4 down. Or you could like move it out to the side. If you could move the pinky toe individually. So like, give me a thumbs up if you successfully completed the pinky toe one. Kind of. Couple thumbs up, a little bit. Thumbs down if you were like not able to do that whatsoever. Okay, so a lot more thumbs down on that one. That's a lot harder. Okay, now toes down. Now like leave the big toe and the little pinky toe all the way down and just lift the 3 in the middle up. You can do your fingers if that helps you. Notice what your fingers are doing. Notice what your jaw is doing. So you're just like, maybe you have the neural pathway to like kind of feel where these toes are going in space and time. Okay, you can rest your toes. But maybe you haven't really ever practiced with your toes before, or for whatever reason, or your shoes have prevented that, or your whatever. And, I'm now having osteoarthritis in my toes, so I'm feeling my toes in like a totally different way. But it's just like whether you've built that neural pathway or not, right? And so, okay, thank you for your patience. I do want to share my screen with you again because I have an inspirational video for you to watch. War and Peace, that's the other way to call this. Patting head and rubbing belly, we didn't do that, but everyone can pat the head and rub the belly. That's another like brain twister. I don't like to rub the head. You can switch hands because I don't like to mess up my curls, but you can do, various versions of those. Different workout combos. Like I was in Taisha's Pilates class the other day, like you do different lunges and different burpees and different yoga variations, like anything different that you're asking your body to do, or like a different combination of movements is a challenge to your brain. You're doing some new stuff or with a new side. Or you could learn words or music to a new song. Anybody know the words to any Hamilton songs, or your favorite songs from childhood, or maybe a poem? We just tried moving your toes, and I'm about to show you a fun video on that. 2:20, we still have time. Good. Yeah, dance moves. You got TikTok, or your kids have TikTok, your grandkids have TikTok. You can learn some new dance moves. I recommend K-pop videos on YouTube. Juggling, we have a whole session on that. Anyway, here's the video. This is inspiring.
You know how people talk about someone having the hands of a pianist? Well, make that the feet. You are listening to the winner of China's Got Talent, talent down to the toes. 23-year-old Li Yuwei has no arms, but he disarmed the judges with his feet. You're beautiful. You're beautiful. In his first appearance back in August, he played an all-instrumental piece. A piece that brought at least one judge to tears. After losing both arms, he learned to dress, swim, use a computer, and even write. So it wasn't such a stretch for him to start tickling the ivories with his toes at the age of 19.
So those are just some inspirational examples of some ways that you can challenge your brain. The other challenge that you all can help come up with is like, what can you do with a different hand? Like, pantomime which hand you brush your teeth with right now. For me, it's my writing hand. So imagine doing it with the other hand. So trying that is a low risk way, right? There's a knife like hand you probably have. Maybe switching hands would be a higher risk thing for that example. But like, what are some other things you could try with the other hand? Enter them in the chat box, or be brave and come off your microphone mute and tell us. What are some other handed challenges you can issue yourself? Dryer, these are great ones. Writing, or drawing. That, especially if you're right hand dominant, usually drawing or writing with your left hand will awaken your right brain. And we talked about the different hemispheres. Shampooing. Nostrils will like give you different scents. Like if you smell your fresh ground coffee out of each nostril, it's going to smell different. And so it's together that you like experience both. Texting. Yeah, right. Any keyboardy stuff. I tend to drive one-handed sometimes, so I'll switch what hand I use. Even like, stirring the pot. We just think about where you ought, even our legs, we automatically start up the stairs with one leg. I have one more sort of more physical practice that I want to introduce that is accessible for everybody, whether seated or standing. But before I launch into that piece to end our time together, what other like brain challenges, kind of 5-minute friendly, brain boosty types of recommendations would you add, or have you been inspired by, to this conversation? Either take yourself off mute or enter it in the chat box. Crossword puzzles, that's a great one. You can even make your own crossword puzzle. I was making one for our neuroscience of stress curriculum. Jumping jacks are awesome because it's high intensity, like interval training, right? You could be done with it in a minute. Sudoku, right? Challenging both your numerical part of your brain as well as the spatial reasoning. Stretching is about what we're about to do. Spoiler alert. Juggling, excellent. Thanks, Jim, for teeing us up. We have a plastic bag juggling workshop, which if you're fancy and you have juggling scarves, that's great, but you can do it with plastic bags, and that slows down gravity enough that you can learn the neural pathway that it takes to learn the skill of juggling. So it's a great brain break. Yeah. Mindful meditation, again, something you can always do. You can always just come back to the breath for just one breath. 1 out of 20,000 might be better than what you did yesterday. So mindfulness, again, just the awareness of whatever it is you're doing at that moment. And maybe a little gratitude too for that moment. That's a powerful practice. Learning a new language, a word at a time, right? How many of us wish we'd done that at the beginning of this pandemic? We had like 300 days have gone by. What's your next 300 days going to look like? What new habits might you take on? All right, great. Thank you. We'll keep the brain boost ideas coming. It's always good to have kind of a new list. We actually have new brain boost bingo cards on our website, which I'll put in the chat, nonprofitwellness.org. Don't insert a space when I don't want a space. So you can send those cards to somebody else, like we'll do it for you, or you can order a set or whatever if you're interested in brain boost bingo or wellness cards in English or Spanish. But for now, we're going to do either a standing or seated 7-direction spine stretch. And so I'll demonstrate seated, but I would encourage you to stand if you can. I just want to offer some modifications and to show that you can do it in any way. But this is an excuse to go ahead and get up and, stretch out in standing form if you can. So 7 spinal stretches or 7 directional spinal stretches. I was trained as a yoga teacher 20 years ago, and so I've been practicing sporadically for quite some time. Gravity already pulls us down all day long. Like we're constantly getting shorter. We're constantly getting more compressed. And we're always like kind of hunching ourselves over a little bit more. So what we have to do mostly when we kind of practice or move is move up, and generally like in the directions we don't usually move, because that'll increase our mobility and resilience. So the first thing is introduce some space. So always start by going up. So breathe in and bring your arms up over your head if you can. If you want to grab your hands, you can. If you want to keep your arms wider because your shoulders are tighter, do that. If you want to grab your hands, you can do that for some kind of like pull and resistance. But this is just about going up first, like getting some space in your spine, and really like imagine if, you know, somebody's pulling you up by your hair, and breathing in at the same time. Okay, so now bring your arms down, and even just from those few breaths while you were like, you know, introducing some space, you might have a little tingle in your shoulders or your forearms from your hands and your arms just going in the other direction. So again, we're going to breathe in and bring your arms up. And you've got some space, and I'm still sitting down. So again, you can do the sitting or standing. And now you're going to introduce space into the sides of your spine. And so whatever's comfortable for you, wherever that stretch happens, is like, you know, you go over to the right and you're stretching the left side of your spine. And if you hold it, it's kind of a different experience than if you just bob up and down. So just do, you know, a little of both. And whichever side, you know, you've stretched, you want to go to the other side. And again, you're just doing the side of your spine right now and thinking about like how that feels to the vertebrae involved. Getting a little space on each side. And this is great for spinal health. Cool. So bringing your arms down, again, probably feeling a little bit in the shoulders and the forearms now. So that's side to side, up and side to side. So let's go forward and back. So we do spend a lot of time hunched over, but we want to make sure we're stretching out our lower back and even our hamstrings. So if you're standing, you're going to keep your legs straight or bend your knees either way, and just bend over. If you're seated, you want to widen your knees so that you can just fold your body in between your legs and just stay seated and fold your body in between your knees. And that'll get a nice stretch through your lower back. If you're standing, you're going to feel that into your hamstrings, whether your knees are bent or straight. You can experiment with where the weight is in your feet. If you're standing, is it back on your heels? Is it up on your toes? And holding that for, you know, like a good minute will help your hamstrings extend. It takes sustained pressure and breathing. Continue to breathe, by the way. Takes that sustained breathing and pressure for muscles to open up and lengthen. So whether you're seated or standing, just kind of roll up. You've stretched now the back side of your spine and your legs really nicely. And this is the part that we don't do very often, and that is stretch the front of our spine. And so you're going to give your back some support, your lower back some support just with your hands, or if you're in a chair, you can the chair is already giving you support, and you can grab onto the seat or the back of your chair, and you're just going to lean back so that your heart is open and your chest is facing up in whatever depth that is comfortable for you. And this is, you know, reversal. Your shoulders are really rolling in the opposite direction. This is a reversal of how we spend most of our day. You might want to tip your head all the way back, or you might want to keep your spine in line, head in line with the rest of your spine. That this is opening your thoracic spine, that upper part of your back, which tends to kind of get hunched over, especially when we're looking at our phones all the time. And you want to keep breathing. And if you can't like talk and breathe, then you're doing it too much, and back off. So that kind of back bending can be really beneficial to just like not just open up our spine, but also like our vulnerability. This is the part of our heart-centered awareness that like slings and arrows, like boom, and we don't want to lead with this part of ourselves sometimes, so we hunch over and protect it. But I promised you 7, and we've only done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 so far. So 6 and 7 are spinal twists. And you're going to remain, this is great to do seated actually, because you remain grounded and stable in the lower pelvic part. And you're just twisting the spine really from the belly. And you can grab onto the back of the chair or your knee or your hip, and you're twisting around to one side, keeping your pelvis grounded, and maybe bringing your head around to finish off the twist. And you're twisting around to the other side equally. If you're standing, maybe you bend your knees to stabilize that pelvic area and make sure you're not twisting too far, because that's what makes it a twist if the base is grounded, right? And the head finishes off that twist. And so that twist, it not only like introduces, again, more space, but it detoxifies your organs because you're compressing and then releasing and introducing fresh blood and flushing out toxins in your organs. So even just that kind of like movement break in your day, we took a few more minutes to do that, but it was, about 5 minutes to do 7 different stretches. You can do it in 30 seconds, but we took a little extra. Is a great way to just introduce a little stretching, a little detoxification, a little balance, right, into the way that we use our spine. And this central energy channel, our spine, is the way that our breath and our energy moves through our body. So if we can kind of get the kinks out and align ourselves better, then our energy will flow more naturally throughout the day. So I'm happy to I'm not happy to answer questions actually, because I already went over time, but I'm happy to like pique your curiosity and leave you, and then leave Amy to answer all the questions and the folks that were in my morning session, because you probably know what I would say by now. How about that?
That's fine. Thank you, everyone. That was great. Thank you very much. That felt good. My dog wondered what I was doing.
What are you doing? Yeah, he's like, why aren't you playing with me more right now?
She went, so I made my dog curious. But thank you, Susan. We know that you have to go. You were very generous with your time, and we know you are in general. So if anybody has any questions, you can send those to me. I can forward them on to Susan.
Yeah,
this is an ongoing conversation for the next several months.
Absolutely. And, Pamela, who was going to be with you today, has done this work with over 900 now folks in West Virginia, and has a lot of video resources and other resources to carry on this conversation. So I know she'll be able to recommend some great stuff for y'all, but I'm also happy to answer questions and pass on my favorites. And, like I said, feel free to send folks postcards and remind people to take good breaks. All right, I'll sign off, but I encourage you to continue the conversation, and I'll see you again soon.
Bye, Susan. Everybody else hang tight. I've got something for you, but we'll say goodbye to Susan.
Bye.
Thank you again. Yes, thank you so much. Okay, so now it's just me, not as exciting. So now we're going to loop back around to the beginning of what we were going to cover since Susan had to leave. And that is welcome. Welcome, everybody. We hit 29 participants so far at one point during this Zoom session. And I just can't tell you how happy that makes me that we have people that are participating like that. Real quickly, this is we call it WellWorks, which is the Workplace Wellness Coordinator Training. It's sponsored by the United Way Alliance of the Mid-Ohio Valley and hosted by Nonprofits Lead. I'm Nonprofits Lead Program Director, Amy Elliott, and Nonprofits Lead is a collaboratively funded program that is housed in Marietta College that does capacity building for nonprofits. So that is why we're all here today, is because we know that all the people on the screen, are the capacity of the nonprofits. And we know that we want you to continue to feel strong, healthy, vibrant, to continue to have good ideas and feel motivated to do the good work that you do every day. And so it's important that we feed you in mind, body, spirit. And we think that one of the best ways to do that is to allow you to form teams in your workplace that nourish each other, to go ahead and put this on the table, to make this a capacity measure. And hopefully you'll reduce some of the stress and reduce burnout, reduce turnover, increase the way that you all feel about each other as a team, increase trust, and just to kind of improve how you're living and working overall as human beings. And so lofty goals for a program, but it's, like I said, it's exciting that we're all here and reaching them. So I just want to, simplify that by saying you've all sent now twice your wellness coordinator for train the trainer training, which will continue until June. And then we're offering these 4 afternoons, February through April, where we're going to have actual hands-on variety of wellness practices to model and demonstrate and kick off the different ways that you can spend time together or alone and report back to the team, however you choose to do it, in a wellness activity that's going to be a healthy alternative to stress. Part of what we know we need and what we've established in the Train the Trainer, but I wanted to bring up here to assist our coordinators to bring it up in their workplaces so that you can have these conversations when you meet in your individual teams. And that is, we call them group agreements, but those are the things that everybody in the group agrees are important. Some people might call them the ground rules. And so it's important that you have those so that everybody has a shared understanding of what you're trying to accomplish and what's okay and what's not okay and what can never happen if I'm going to be part of this, et cetera, et cetera. And so particularly we want to respect the agreement of confidentiality and respect for each other and the different places that everybody is coming from, and also participation. So I just would like for you, as you talk with each other about what the ground rules or group agreements are going to be for your own particular programs in your workplace, I would like for you to consider participation or engagement so at some level to be some sort of group agreement, for there to be a group agreement about respect, and for there to be a group agreement about confidentiality. And one of the reasons we want confidentiality to be, or why it's so important, is because what we've learned already, just wanting to turn off our cameras when we had to stand up and stretch, is there's a certain level of vulnerability to this. We're talking about our health. Sometimes we're talking about our bodies. Sometimes we're talking about what we eat or drink, or how much Netflix we watch, or how much wine we have, or how much salt we put on our food. I don't even know. There's just going to be such a variety of topics. And so respect, confidentiality, and vulnerability are definitely going to be key pieces in this. And because we're nonprofit sector folks, we have those things, right? We respect the people that we work with. We respect their confidentiality, and we get to real vulnerable places with folks. And so I know you know how to do it, and you may already know how to do it with each other, but I just wanted to bring that up as part of the importance of the trust and the vulnerability that you establish with each other, because it will make your program and your team work so much more efficiently, so much better, that deepness. Your wellness coordinator is being given, you think it's overwhelming now, some of you wellness coordinators, we've got a few tools, is going to be given an overwhelming number of tools, because we've found these great resources through Susan, through the United Way and Pamela Santer and other people who have offered low cost or free resources to this group. You are going to be given an incredible amount of resources to sift through. what to have available. What I want to remind you of is that this is not, we're the program is 6 months, right? We started last month and we're going to run through June. And that is so that your program in your workplace can get its roots, can get started. But this is a long term, we want this to never go away in your workplace. It might evolve, the coordinator might change, the topics will change, the activities will change, new research will come out, but we want this to be a permanent part of the culture of your workplace. And so we're willing to overwhelm you with resources, knowing that we're going to encourage you to just pick and choose what works for you and get started slowly with baby steps as you need to. And one of the things that we're realizing as our smaller group with our coordinator training is that small pieces make big differences, and that just some of the little things that we can pick out that we do or want to focus on make us feel better about our ability to focus on and improve our own wellness. The other thing that I want to encourage you to do, Susan called it appreciative inquiry. I might call it positive framing, but it's very important that you appreciate yourselves and what you're already doing. The fact that you are here today, the fact that you've got a person in this coordinator training, and as individuals, I know that there are many, many things that you are doing that you may or may not be counting as wellness, but that are. And so I want to encourage you, as Susan would, as Pamela would, to focus on what you're doing right already, and to give yourself credit for that. And if you want to add, if you're already eating 3 fruits and vegetables a day and you want to make it 4, great, go for it. That's a fantastic goal. Give yourself credit for the 3. And so we want to make sure that there's a positive spin on what you're doing and the conversations that you're having, and your coordinators are being trained to help you to ask good questions, to help you through some of those talks with a positive framing. So having said all that, so that was going to be first, and then we were going to do Susan's activity. But having said all that, now you've been welcomed and you've got an outline of the program and some objectives and some kind of ground rules and thoughts and ideas and important things. And we've tried something physical and with our breath and talked about some different physical mindfulness and stress relieving things. So what questions do you have? And you're welcome, if you want to put those questions in the chat, I can read those. If you want to take yourself off mute and just ask a question, or those of you who are wellness coordinators, if there's something you want to point out to the group, please be my guest. Lead program without homework. And so, or home play, as I used to call it. So in closing, there are 4 things that I would like to ask you to do. And you are your own accountable adult. The first is to participate, to engage at whatever level is comfortable for you, but to give it a good shot. Sometimes these things are awkward at first. Cultural and organizational change are awkward at first. And there's some vulnerability and trust. There's vulnerability here and there's trust to be established. But I ask you to please do your best to engage and participate the best that you can. The second one, it is actually kind of homework, is I would like for each of you, both the coordinators and the other people, to set yourself some sort of reminder. And it might be a Post-it note. I saw somebody earlier showed me on a break, showed me they had made themselves a Post-it note. It could be a Post-it note. It could be an alarm on your phone. It could, you're going to hang a poster in your office, a reminder to breathe, to mindfully breathe. So just put it somewhere that it would be convenient to breathe, to take a minute and just notice that you're breathing and take some good deep breaths. It shouldn't be too much to ask. Next is, again, to focus on the positive, to think about what you are doing. I think you're probably doing more to take care of yourself. We know that you're very good at taking care of others. We want you to focus on what you're already doing to take care of yourself. And then you have something you can build from. And finally, number 4, I just added this, and this is homework too, is I want you to consider learning a few jokes, because clean, appropriate jokes that you can tell, dad jokes, whatever it needs to be. We call them dad jokes. I don't know if that's sexist or not to call them dad jokes, but clean, appropriate, funny jokes that you could share with each other in the workplace, because we learned this morning the importance of laughter and how laughter really does de-stress us, and it really helps our nervous system when we laugh. It really is medicine. And so I want to encourage all of you to find a way to make each other laugh that is appropriate and not scary. Okay, any final questions or comments before we say adios and you get to go finish your day?